Welcome all to the weekly outlook. Boone here from EWPRO, getting straight into the weekly outlook, starting with the DXY on the daily. There's two scenarios here. This is either an A, B, C, and that's the end of the move, and we go up and break the top, or the way I've got it labelled here, and we've got an A, B, C, A, B, C as a flat, a running or expanding flat, and then we get the A, B, C. Both scenarios are possible. We're really waiting. If you get a sell set up, you can look for the sell to break the low, or even if it's a correction, because if we're looking for upside to go and break the top, we're still waiting for a correction. You're still waiting for a correction. So you know, at this stage I'm just looking for sells, either for the larger C down or as a correction. H4, we got all this bearish divergence, so if you're scalping up here, it gets dangerous. It's still looking very much bullish. But yeah, we have that bearish divergence. So there is no sell set up on it, and it's getting quite risky to buy. You are getting a little flag in here. If you're going to trade these flags, you're just scalping. You're getting into the market and out of the market. You'd be targeting this 123.6 as your first target. AU on the daily. I put out a trading view idea on this one. So I'm looking at an A, B, C. A, B, C. I'm looking to buy this larger C up. It's got the first target and the second target. You can go and have a look at the idea on trading view. We do have that bullish divergence in here between these two lows. So, I'm looking for a buy. I'm only looking for buys. At this stage on the H4, you can see it's still looking very much bearish, like it was last week, or the last couple of weeks. It's been looking very bearish. Got another one down. We got all that bullish divergence, but it's still looking bearish. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get another one down. This may turn into a flat or some sort of complex correction. We get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a complex correction, or even 3 up in here, or may just be impulse, but it may turn into a larger correction before we get more downside, a more complex correction. We don't know, but at this stage there is no buy on it, so I'm pretty much just leaving it alone. At this stage we have that bullish divergence. Again, if you want to scalp these, you're just scalping, on the H1 we got 5 up in here. We got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could look at it, if you got a buy set up as some sort of an A, B, C in here, but it doesn't really fit. After the 5 up, we're expecting a larger correction. Well, this is a similar size correction to these, so yeah, it's not really ideal to be trying to buy this with the structure we currently have. But again, if you went right down onto the lower time frames and you got a impulse up in here, a little flag, well, you could look for that as a flat, an A, B, C as your flat, to scalp more upside. It's not something I would do, but yeah, I'm be more, well, at this stage, like I said, I'm only looking for buys, but this, if it gives a buy set up in here, it's reasonably risky. Yeah, and it looks bearish overall. We've got all this bearish divergence on the H1 as well. EU on the daily. Again, there's 2 scenarios here. It's an A, B, C up, and that's the end. Or That's how I've got it labelled as an A, B, oh sorry, an A, B, C, and then we get an A, B, C as a running or expanding flat, and then we get the larger A, B, C. I'm looking to trade this C up if I get the bullish, if I get a bullish setup. You know, this still can come down further, you know, and give us an expanding flat. We don't know yet. This on the H4, we are starting to get the bullish divergence. So again, I wouldn't be looking to sell. This was looking very bearish here last week, you know, like I said, and it did fall over, give us another one down. It may turn bearish again, like give us another little correction in here and another one down, and it can keep on doing this. But eventually, you know, I'm looking for a nice impulse up, a correction, and then I can look to trade that wave C up on the daily. At this stage, there really isn't anything on it. Here on the H1, you may get a bearish hidden divergence here, and then another one down. Ideally, if you're looking for the buy, we really want a nice impulse up, and then a correction or a flag, and then you can safely buy it. It's a lot safer to do that than trying to buy in these little flats in what looks to be a correction. GU on the daily. This one here, looking at an A, B, C, and like I've said for a very long time, it may be an A, W, X, Y, X2, and we get a Z up in here. This is still looking rather bullish. Price bounce clean off this trend line. This still can be like an A, B, C. We have all the bearish divergence. So really, you know, this can go and break that low. If I just quickly go to the monthly, I shouldn't really go to this time frame, but if we just go over the monthly, we got like a WXY, X2, and I've got it labeled as a Z down. There's two scenarios here. This can be A, B, C, A, B, C in here as a running flat, or it may turn expanding, but at this stage, a running flat. And then we can get an A, B, C down. So we can get more downside on this. You know, I have labeled it as a Z down, but yeah, it was very choppy in here on the daily. So like I've shown, you know, we've got all that bearish divergence. So, you know, it may go and break the low. I'd be selling, more inclined to be selling GU than EU, for example. This may turn motive on the H4, like a WXY, X2, and a Z down. At this stage, you know, we are getting overall bullish divergence as an A, B, C. It still can come down to this 100 bib, but yeah, it's very choppy. It's quite choppy, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's just an A, B, C, and we do get more upside. But yeah, if we're looking for the upside, I'd be more interested in trading EU and AU than rather than GU. So looks like we've lost all the. I think we still do have overall bullish divergence, but yeah, starting to get quite choppy down the bottom here. There's no buy setup, and it's quite risky to sell, like the others. Quickly go down to the M15. So M15, we have the bullish divergence. We had a bear hidden here, like for a WXY, X2 with the bear hidden, Z down. So if we got a nice impulse up here, correction or flag, well, then you could look to the buy. Other than that, I wouldn't be, if it gives a sell set up in here, can trade them, but they're getting very risky, in my opinion. NU on the daily, very similar to AU, but this one here, we lost the bullish divergence. So we got an A, B, C. I'm looking for that larger C up. So I'm only really looking for buys. But this one here, this can turn more motive and break the low, like as a WXY, X2 and a Z down, and it may or may not just break that low. And then we get the A, B, C, and this turns into a larger correction before we get more downside. But at this stage, I'm only looking for buys. I'm looking to buy this wave C up. H4, we got the bullish divergence. So again, this is looking very bearish. If you're inclined to sell it, well, you're just scalping, and you want to just keep it as a scalp, because more than likely, if you're going to keep it for long term, it'll just break the low and come back and take you out. We got all this bullish divergence, so it is looking very bearish here, though. I wouldn't be surprised if that low does get broken, giving us even more bullish divergence. I'm just waiting for a buy setup like the others pretty much, and there is no buy setup, and there really isn't a sell setup either. This one got the 5 up as well. We got some sort of a W, X, Y, X2 and the Z up with the bearish divergence. This is looking like a larger correction. Well, a correction in here, we may get another 5 up before it does go. So if you are trying to trade this as a sell, it does look very corrective, but it may give another 5 up in here before it does go. GU on the daily. No, sorry, GY. So this one here, looking at that WX extended wave Y, then I'll be looking for an X2 and then a Z up. Excuse me. We got this internal WXY. I'm waiting for a correction. There's two scenarios. There's a couple of different scenarios here. This is looking very bullish in here. So this may be an A, B, C up here, giving us 3 up, and then we get an A, B, C as a flat, similar size to this over here, before we get the wave Z up in wave Y to finish off wave Y. That's how I'm really looking at it. This may turn into the flat here as well, like this keeps on coming down in here, and it gives us a flat there, and then you get a buy set up on the lower time frames in here for that wave Z up. I wouldn't be looking to buy this in here. You really need a deep correction to this wave here to be able to buy this safely, because your stop loss will be under this low here. Again, this is looking very much bullish. It didn't really play out on the H4 like I was looking at. We're looking at that nice impulse here. We got the correction in here to buy that. So we got like a WXY. I was looking for an X2 and then a Z up. This one never went and gave us that Z up. Instead, it's turned into a larger, what looks to be a correction. I'm only looking at all this as a correction because of how choppy it is. So it does get quite risky. you can't really sell it either because of how choppy this is. It's looking corrective to the upside. So, yeah, I would be staying out of it, like I said a couple of weeks ago, until we find a structure that we can actually trade. There's really not much on it. Like we got some sort of A, B, C in here. May get some sort of an A, B, a C up in here, some sort of a flat. Then you get an A, B, C. This can turn quite complex. So it's more for the experienced trader. USD Japan. I put a sell idea out on this on TradingView as well. Looking to trade this wave C down. So, and this is the invalidation point here. So I'm looking, any sell setup I get against this invalidation point, I'll be looking to sell. It's not giving any sell setups. That's the problem at this stage. On the H4, we have all this bearish divergence. So I'm not looking for buys. Again, if you're buying up here, you're just scalping, and it's extremely risky. It's not something I would do, but if you're inclined to scalp at the top of the market, well, that's on your head, not mine. So we got all that bearish divergence. I'm waiting. Whatever happens in here, gives a nice impulse down. Then if it gives us a sell setup, then I can look to trade that C down. Until that happens, I'm just staying out of the market. I'm not looking for the buys. I'm only looking for the sells. We do have bearish divergence here as well, on the daily. So, yeah. The CAD on the daily, this is quite difficult because there's two scenarios here, like I've been mentioning for a while. This X1 is a similar size to this X2 here. So this can either go up and reach our targets, the 123.6 and the 161.8 as a second target. But like I've been mentioning, this in here, this can be a flat. There's a running or expanding flat. We get an A, B, C, and we get some sort of a larger correction. So this one is quite difficult. We got the 5 up in here. We got that W, X, Y, X2, the Z up. We do have the bearish divergence. Has this broken this low yet? It hasn't quite broken this low. Really like to see this low here broken, like I said last week, and then give us a sell setup. If it gives us a sell setup there, well, then we can trade that H4 flat, this flat here, as a B, C, the flat, to go and break the low. But we need this correction in here first. Must look corrective and give us a sell setup, and then we can look to sell it. Or the second scenario is, it goes up and breaks the top, and goes to these targets. Well, either way, we're still waiting for a correction in here, and then look for your buy setup. So we're really only looking for sells at this stage. This may just turn into an A, B, C in here. Like it may just give you an A, B, and a C down, and then give you a buy setup. But at this stage, I'm looking for a sell for at least a C down, and it may take off and may go and break the low if that larger flat plays out. The Swissy on the daily, this one does have the bullish divergence. Got that A, B, C with all the bullish divergence. I'm at least targeting the 50 fib of this move here. As a longer term trade, the H4, we got those 5 down. Had that bear hidden in here. We were looking at that to break the low. It did just go and break the low, so that was great. Got a nice impulse up. This was quite difficult because it gave us that long, drawn-out correction. So I'm just looking at it as a B, C up to this 100 fib, like I've been mentioning for the last few weeks. It is still climbing up there. This is very slow. It may turn motive, but yeah, at this stage, it's still looking rather corrective for more downside. You know, we got 1, 2, 3 up, getting all that bearish divergence. You know, it may go and break this low once again. Like I said last week, it's very difficult to buy this at this stage. You know, getting even more bearish divergence on the H1, so we got some sort of an A, B, and we're getting a C up. If you're scalping up here, it is very dangerous. I think I said last week, if you're looking for the scalp, you know, you'd be first targeting that 100 fib. At this stage, there really isn't much on it unless you're scalping the buys. For the sell, we want a nice impulse down and a sell, well, a corrective structure and then a sell setup before we get in to sell to go and break the low. Yeah, there's not much on it at all at this stage. EG on the daily. This still hasn't gone. You know, looking at that A, B, C down to that 100 fib, possibly down to that 100 fib. We've got a W, X, Y, X2, and we've got that Z down, giving us a bullish divergence. Again, it would have been nice if it gave a nice impulse up and then a nice correction, and then we could all jump in on it. Instead, it's like the others. It's looking rather corrective. This can be like an A, 1, 2, 3, and we get an A, B, C as some sort of a flat in here. And that may be similar size correction to that, and then we get like a W, X, Y, X2, and a Z down. Something's wrong with this pair. It's very corrective. It's still looking very corrective after we've broken the low. Over here, with that wave Z down. And then we got 1, 2, 3, just breaking the low. So I suspect that this is going to be an A, B, C. You can trade this one to the upside. You may get an opportunity to get in, you know, if we're looking at this as the flat. So you'd only really be like an A, B, C. It may turn motive on you to get in on this if you're looking at this as the flat. It's looking ideal. You'd be looking for a correction early on next week. Correction in here. If you got a correction in here and then a buy setup, you could look to buy. This may be your first opportunity at a low to get in, or it turns more complex, like I showed that flat for more downside. But yeah, you may get a setup in there to it may turn into a longer term trade. We don't know yet. But yeah, it'll depend on what happens in here. And during the week, you'll have to watch this Monday, Tuesday, and then you may get a buy set up out of it, and it may just turn into a scalp, or it may take off on you. You don't know. WTI, this one has kept on going. Looking at that, well, looking at that as the low, like as that W, X, Y, X2, the Z down. This was very slow in here. It's turned very much motive though, and now we have nice impulse up, so we'll be waiting for a correction before we look for buys. Not sure what that one was for. This one here, unfortunately, it didn't get what I was looking for. I was looking for an A, B, C in here, and then we get an A, B, C, filling in the time factor for that over here, and then we get the wave Z up. Like I said last week, it went early, and we've lost all the bearish divergence. So now I just got to wait for a correction. I need to wait for a correction before I can look for buys. So really, unless you're scalping this, it gets dangerous now scalping because we've got the bearish divergence on the H1. You'd really be going down onto the lower time frames if you're scalping the buys. I'd be more interested in it. Eventually this will stop, give us a nice sell setup, and then we can sell in. More than likely we'll be selling into a correction, but we may get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, larger correction, another 5 down as a zigzag, or whatever correction it turns into be, before we look for the longer term buys. So yeah, there's really not much on it. It's just scalping. So yeah, if you're looking for the scalp, you're looking for buy scalps. I'm more interested in a sell if and when that comes. Gold. So gold, I've gone through the different scenarios here. We've got impulse, 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 and then we have the correction. So this may be an A, B, C. A, B, C as a larger flat before we get an A, B, C. Sort of looking for buys at this stage. There is a bear hidden here. It didn't go and break the low, but it was very deep. It still may, well, it's unlikely that it'll break the low now. It's giving more of a impulse up in here on the H1, so you may get a buy on this. So we got this like A, B, C. We've got that bullish divergence. Got a nice impulse up if you get a correction in here. You'll be looking for at least an A, B, C, and more than likely it'll turn motive. So WXY, X2, and a Z up. It really depends on what sort of correction. You'll be looking Monday, Tuesday for a correction. If you've got a correction and a nice buy setup, well, you definitely could look to buy this. I'm looking to buy this. Silver, on the other hand, this is extremely risky. I would be staying out of it at this stage. We've got an impulse, 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 impulse. I dare say we'll get a correction in here and we'll get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This can turn very complex. There is no direction, there's no direction on it. So yeah, you really have to stay out of this. I mean, on the H1, you could look the same as gold, but I would be trading the gold instead of the silver. The gold looks much better. We got the structures are there for the gold. The silver, there really isn't. But again, if you got a correction in here Monday, Tuesday, you could look for upside. Bitcoin on the daily. So eventually, I won't go over all this, but you know, we're looking at that flat. We got the extended wave C up, nice impulse down. Now I'm expecting a long drawn out correction before we get downside to this, down to this low here, at least down to this low, breaking this low, may even go down and break that low. This is going to be very difficult to trade in the correction. You got a flat in here. It'll show on the H1. So you got a nice impulse up. You got the flat there. More than likely, this is just an A, B, C. You could look to, you know, if you got some sort of a setup on here, in here on the lower time frames, Monday, you could look to trade that C up, and you never know, it may turn motive on you. But yeah, I'd be really only concentrating on a C up, and definitely be taking half off at the 100 fib, wherever that 100 fib is. Yeah, treating it more like a scalp. S&P. So we're looking for this correction similar size to this over here, as this arrow shows. We're looking for a W, X, Y, X2, and then the Z up. We're in a waiting game. You know, this, I dare say this is going to turn more complex. Like I was looking at last week, excuse me, looking at that A, B, C as a possible flat. Well, this wave did, this internal C down here did come into the territory of this wave B or A, this wave A in here, and this wave C come into the territory of this wave A, and then this larger C up went and broke the top of it. So technically that flat did play out. This is looking very bearish in here, so it may turn more complex. But I would be looking to sell this. It may just turn into an A, B, C, and then you get some sort of an A, B, C. Or this was the flat here, and you get an A, B, and this falls over on you for a wave C down. So I would be looking to sell this, and you may get a nice opportunity. Did this low here? This low here didn't quite get broken, unfortunately. So yeah, it becomes risky now because this low hasn't been broken. We have a bull hidden here, possible bull hidden. Ideally, this goes and breaks that low, and then gives you a correction, and then you could safely sell it at this stage because this low hasn't been broken. You may get impulse up and a buy set up to go and break the top, and the bull hidden plays out. So yeah, if you're trading this, you'll have to take these hidden divergences into consideration before buying. AU 200. This is very choppy. I think I said last week on this pair, I'll just stay out of this at this stage. It's too choppy. I'm looking at an A, a B, and a C. We're waiting for this C down to finish off the B, and then we'll be looking for that larger C up. It's turning very choppy. You really have to stay out of it. We got a WXY. Bear hidden, and the bear hidden didn't go and break the low. We had that bear hidden there. It didn't go and break that low. So it's made it very difficult to trade. If this had gone and broken the low and given us a buy setup, well, then you could safely buy. You can't safely buy this in here, you know, for that. You know, you just can't, not safely. We got impulse, impulse, impulse. So I dare say we may get a correction in here. for a one up, and then it turns into an A, B, C as some sort of a larger flat, and then we get an A, B, C, and then we get the larger A, B, C. You know, so many different scenarios in here. You really, at this stage, you know, you're really only scalping the H1 now, because it has given us a motive structure up like a WXY. You know, you could look for a bull hidden in here and then look for a wave Z up, just scalping. You know, you're only scalping. The FTSE, so this is looking a lot better than this AU200. Looking at that, this is an A, B, C here, and then we get an A, B, C. We're looking at that as the end of the move. Anti-buy setup. We're looking for that C up as the A, B, C, and then we'll be looking for an A, B, C as a larger correction before we get more upside. I think there was a setup on this to buy. We're looking for that buy. This was the problem with this one as well. It did have that bear hidden, but I said, you know, this can be the flat in here. You know, put a buy stop above the top for that. Yeah, very similar to AU200. You'll be waiting for like a bull hidden in here, and then you'll be looking to trade that wave Z up. The DAX, this just hasn't fallen over. You know, just really waiting for this to, looking at that A, B, C, expanding flat, and then like an A, B, C, getting a correction in here. I definitely would be looking for any sell setup on this. Any sell setup I get, I'd be looking for a sell. So we got an impulse down. Sort of got like an A, B, C in here. Get an A, B, C. So, I mean, this would be more bullish on the H1. But if you got a sell set up, I'd be looking for a sell. I mean, you'd have to go down onto the lower time frames, because the H1 is bullish. We got, well, actually, we didn't get bullish divergence, but we got a higher high here. So it's more correction, and you'd be looking for upside. Now, you could trade that upside just as a scalp, but yeah, I'd be like, yeah, this may be an A, a B, a C, and you get a sell set up in here. So I hope you enjoyed the weekly outlook. If you did, please help the channel out. Like, subscribe, share. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next week.